Is peace ever possible? Go.
Justice is a prerequisite for peace. In South Africa, when the apartheid system, which we know for a fact Israel is an apartheid state because it has laws like the right of return, which only allow Jewish people to come into the country. And if they convert, by the way, to Christianity or to Islam, they are stripped from that right, it meets completely the definition of apartheid as per Cornell Law School and according to the UN Convention 1973. It's an apartheid system. And as a prerequisite of an apartheid system, you have to be a racist. If you support that, you're a racist, no doubt about it. So number one, 1973 apartheid law. If the black South Africans have been displaced, if they have been displaced by the whites and then they were trying to come back into their country and they were not allowed, and then you ask them, is peace possible? That's not the question we'd be asking them. We'd be asking them, is justice possible? And that's the question that we're going to be asking. If you really look at it from an international law perspective, we're talking about 1967, we're talking about Syria Resolution 242, in which it is actually stated that Israel is in a belligerent state because they're occupying the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza. And they have been, so therefore the war has been continual for a very long time according to international law. But let's remove Hamas from the situation altogether. Let's remove them. What do you have? You have the West Bank. And what do you have in the West Bank? You have 187 children who have been put in prisons. They have been put in prisons, according to B'Tselem, without charge. You have 44 children before October the 7th that have been killed before October the 7th in just 2023 alone. So if you remove Hamas from the equation, what you have the West Bank. You remove dominance from the equation, you have the West Bank, and what do you have? You have occupation, you have settlement, which you condemned, rightfully so. You condemned that on your show, the settlement's there. What I'm saying is the 100 to 1 ratio comes from the following figures. We know that 10,000 civilians have died. Of them, according to the IDF, as reported by The Guardian, dozens, they say, about 60, Hamas died, which we're being liberal by saying 100 to 1 figures. For every one Hamas, you have to kill 100 civilians. That's effectively what we're saying. If the trajectory continues as it is, then you have to kill 3 million Palestinian civilians in order to kill 30,000 Hamas fighters. If you want to extinguish them, eviscerate them, annihilate them, destroy them, you have to do that. Now you have Herzog, who is the president that you interviewed, saying that all Palestinians, they are responsible. As I said before, and I'll say it again, justice is a prerequisite for peace. If this was the case that it was South Africa and both nations had a long and known history with each other, Israel and South Africa, there's a book called The Secret Alliance that you can read for your further information. If this was South Africa and the blacks were kicked out of their country, they were kicked out of their country by the whites, like the Nakba, 700,000 Palestinians were kicked out, and then they had the audacity to talk about peace, nobody would be accepting it. The apartheid laws of South Africa are the same effectively as the apartheid laws of Israel. You're not allowed to come back to the country unless you are of a specific ethnicity which meets the requirement for apartheid. The 100 to 1 ratio of being killed in Gaza, this seems to be acceptable to Shmuley, unholy Shmuley. It seems to be acceptable to him.
It's not acceptable. It's a very good rhyme. At least a little bit of comedy. It's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to the people. When we see these images, it's absolutely not acceptable. So peace is justice is a requirement for peace.